Okay, guys, so take two with our targeting. Hopefully, we've got the recording working properly this time. So, once we've segmented the market, we have to decide which of the particular segments we're going to target. Um, to give an example, going back to consoles, do we want to target the family-friendly segment, the professional gamer segment, the occasional user segment, the teen gamer segment, or all of the above? So, we have to decide which particular area of the market we're going to go into. So here's the example with the Nintendo Switch. We've got these three different segments. We've got families, we've got male teenagers, and we've got kind of the, apologies for the reference here, we've kind of got the nerd gamers segment. And we have to decide, which of these segments we're particularly focusing on. You can argue that, they're all valuable segments. Why don't we go for all of them? But the segments have quite different needs. The family-friendly segment, they don't want their kids to have games with, violence or sexually explicit content. The teen segment want maybe high-end teen male segment where it may want, really good graphics. They may want some violence. So these different segments have quite different needs. So, we've got to decide when we target a segment, first, how profitable it'll be. Imagine that we have a segment of people who like playing card games on computers, and they like very specific card games, and maybe there's a segment of those people out there, but it might not be particularly valuable or profitable segment. So we have to think about how profitable a certain segment of the market would be. And does a segment fit with who we are as a company? Again, if Nintendo started selling, R-rated games with lots of violence and sexually explicit content, it really doesn't fit in with their brand image, and it might hurt them in some of their core family-oriented segments. So we have to be very careful that our kind of segmentation and targeting strategy actually matches with what we are as a company. So here's something from the book. We have this little, almost like matrix grid, and on the rows we have is the segment a corporate strength or less capable, and then is the market attractive or not so attractive. So let's, if if the segment plays to our strengths and is attractive, then go for it. If we're not so good in that segment and the market's not doing so well, then we avoid, and then we've got the two hmms, which are somewhere in between, and we have to think about. So let's just think about Nintendo, the families with younger kids. This is what this is what our brand is based on, kind of Mario kids games. So this is our strength, and the market is an attractive market. Growing Nintendo is a global company, growing, global middle class with families with kids. It's a growing market, so this is a definite segment we want to stay aiming for. Now, an interesting one is one of our strengths is we've previously done a lot of like activity games, like with the Wii, so we still have maybe some of that expertise. But kind of, that segment, it started off and it was like the next biggest big thing, but it hasn't really taken off as mainstream. The majority of consoles don't have kind of the activity kits these days. I don't know quite why. It may be that people decided, hey, if I want to do sports, I want to enjoy the outdoors, I want to do it with friends rather than looking at a computer screen. But that market isn't, there's still probably a need for it, but it's maybe not as quite as hot as it was before. Where the market is attractive, but we're less capable, is where we have serious gamers focused on technology and graphics. In that, as Nintendo users, we perhaps, our technology is not quite as good as the PlayStation or Xbox. So we've generally not got that segment who want the best graphics possible. And then this was a difficult one for me. I had to think about this. I did mobile gaming. I found an article. And I found an article. I basically said I thought mobile would be growing, but it's declined in the last year. Though I still think it's a pretty valuable segment of the market. And Nintendo's pretty good with handheld, but not specific with mobile gaming. So even though it kind of falls in this segment. We've not done that much with mobile gaming, and it's been a decline this year. I mean, based on this, it would be a void, but you could make an argument that if somebody paid Nintendo licenses for cell phone games, there may be a strategy which actually enable Nintendo to make a profit from that market. So nothing's really kind of clear cut there. So again, this is just summarizing what I said on the previous slides. Serious gamers, more focused on technology, family-friendly Mario. That image might not help here. And the activity segment, we've done well in that segment previously, Nintendo, but maybe after COVID, people are trying to recreate with nature and with friends. That segment isn't doing so well at the moment. It's never quite reached its potential. But I mean, it could be with virtual reality. There's a move and improved technology. There's a move back to that particular segment. If we can have VR goggles that make us thinking we're actually skiing in the Alps, or swimming down or doing whitewater rafting down the Amazon or something, maybe we could actually gain some traction in that segment. So the next thing is what we did for the practical is the SWOT analysis. So companies, they have, and you've probably done a few SWOT analyses before. The top is basically, again, it's another matrix. The top half is all about our internal strengths and weaknesses. So, we've got strengths and weaknesses. This is all kind of about the company here. So for Nintendo, this would be the strength with the family segment, weaknesses, not so strong in the, high-end gamer market. And then we have externally opportunities and threats. We may have, great opportunities from the next generation of consoles. We may be able to dominate the online gaming space, which we've not done so well at the moment. But there's also threats. We may have that Sony is actually, and Sony and Xbox are really going to aim at the family-friendly market. Maybe release a specific set of, franchises, games that are particularly aimed at that kind of segment. And they've got better graphics and better consoles, so they really threaten us in this segment. So basically, we've got strengths and weaknesses. These are internal. We've got to research our own company and then create strategies designed to leverage our strengths or try and mitigate some of our weaknesses. So this is the example from Nintendo. So our kind of strengths, I said iconic brand properties such as Mario and Zelda, strong in the family segment, and regional strength. I think, Nintendo is the best-selling console in Japan. Unfavorable, limited offline infrastructure. A lot of gaming now is online multiplayer games, and Nintendo is not as strong as Microsoft or Sony. Consoles generally a little bit less powerful than competitors, and there's less kind of, think of Call of Duty. Maybe you can get it on Nintendo now, but certainly some of the franchises with high-end graphics, there's not as much for the Nintendo. Opportunities and threats. Now, these are kind of often driven by the 5 Cs. So just giving a few examples, which we covered in week 1. So, for example, ease of internet access. We may think, okay, better kind of high-speed internet access globally. So increased global online gaming potential. Growing Hispanic population in the US. We may want to, change our needs for a more diverse population, look at multi-language offerings, new competitors in the market. Though this might not apply to us. High barriers to entry, for example, for consoles. It's really hard to suddenly build a console from scratch. The last successful entrant was Microsoft with the Xbox, and Microsoft is one of the world's biggest companies. And new offerings from existing competitors. Well, hey, PS6 is going to be coming out soon. And I also put the return of the PC. For a while, consoles pretty much took over gaming for the PC, but most major kind of games are now also kind of ported to the PC. So there's increasing competition from that segment. I wouldn't say in our particular instance we have a lack of competitors, but aging baby boomers, and that's an interesting thing. Can we appeal to that segment who might not be into gaming? Maybe we could develop some health, wellness, and puzzle games. And Nintendo aims at the family-friendly segment, but This segment might have similar needs to the family segment. We don't want a lot of violence, but we want things that will kind of improve well-being. So here's my external. These are my opportunities. Switch 2 could help Nintendo break into more serious gaming segments if it's sufficiently powered, and we have enough decent game franchises for it. And generally, we've got the family segment. If this segment is growing, this gives us new opportunities. And the potential threats, as I said, Sony and Microsoft may make this strong push into the family market. And, you know, Nintendo is a big company, but it's not as big as Sony or Microsoft. They may fall behind in terms of console power and technology. Okay, so companies, and we kind of, this is related to what we did the previous week when I showed you all these kind of segmentation maps, and I showed you them for customers, but we can also segment brands, we can segment companies, and we can do this to kind of look at how, you know, which companies or which brands are competing with each other. So let's just have a look at some perceptual maps. And this is the one from the book. It's very simple. So we've got a perceptual map here, and we think back to the one I did with the retail stores where we had like trendiness and quality. Because I always think price and quality are going to be really highly correlated. But we have 4 different competitors, and we've decided to place ourselves in the. We've decided there's a gap in the middle market, so we place ourselves in the middle. This is the one I showed you last week. And as I said, you've got these business intelligence. And this just means kind of software for industry that helps makers make decisions. So we've got Microsoft. We have visionaries. We have the completeness of vision, aiming from niche players to visionaries, which is basically the breadth of our service and the ability to execute, you know, how useful, how competent, how good are our products. So we see that we have the leaders high in both dimensions, Microsoft and Salesforce. We have visionaries that are high in completeness of vision, but not maybe executing quite so well, such as Oracle. And we have high ability to execute, but doing less well on completeness of vision. So Google, Amazon. And then finally, we have the niche players, which are kind of unable to execute. So these are kind of almost the laggards in the market. So here, this is a fun little one. I don't know if I agree with this completely. I just found this, so I thought I'd throw it in there. But we're looking at fast food. We're looking at kind of fast food perpetual map. We're going from the convenience fast food to the sit down, and the healthy to the unhealthy. But you know, you could actually make a strong case for Chipotle having lots of calories and not being particularly healthy. We've got the Olive Garden here, sit down and a little bit unhealthy. I would agree with this. Cheesecake Factory, unhealthy and sit down. And then we've got, for example, Subway, fast food, relatively healthy. Depends what you get. But it just kind of shows we're looking at similarities of brands here. And here's one I found, which is maybe I think is a little bit better. And this is going from high end to the high street. This is actually using UK terminology. High street is just the shops you get on the main street, basically. Main street would be better. And then kind of the brand image from kind of classic fashion to innovative forward looking. So Dolce & Gabbana is quite classic style, upper middle market. Gucci is forward looking and high end. Urban Outfitters and Topshop are kind of cheaper high street, but more forward looking with new trends coming out. Topshop, just think of it something like Zara. It's primarily British, but I've seen a few of them in like Chicago. And they're basically, it's almost like cheap fast fashion for teens and early 20s. Just to kind of summarize, you know, once we've done all this analysis, sometimes, and obviously we're not going to make multi-million or billion-dollar decisions based on this little graph, but we can just compare our different segments, you know, how big the segment is, do we expect it to grow, how many competitors, does it fit our company, and then decide, you know, is it a priority? Are we going to maybe look at it, or we just decide no way? So for gaming, we might decide, okay, the family-friendly segment, this is what we lead in. We see it's a growing segment. We're the leader in here. It fits our business model, so we're going to go for it. And at the opposite end, we might say, you know, almost like an adult gaming with R-rated movies. Maybe it's a growing segment, but you know, we can't do as well as the other providers here. It doesn't fit our brand image. In fact, it might actively hurt our brand image, so we're going to say no. Okay, so that's the first half of segment